What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another episode of Self Assured. Now, if you noticed, we did bring the frequency of YouTube videos down to every other week starting now. It was just becoming a little unsustainable for me to actually film that much, but I really wanted to sit down and record a holiday survival guide for you today because it is November officially, and we have many holidays approaching, and I want to make sure that you feel well equipped to actually tackle these holidays in the best way possible for your health and your fitness goals. So before we get into the video, I do have a lot of what I'm going to tell you today, both in podcast format and in PDF guide format that you can download. So if you would like the download of the holiday survival guide that you can actually print and reference through the holiday season this year, go ahead and just look in the description below and you can download that. So for the holidays, I don't know about you, but when it comes to the holidays for me, this used to be a really stressful time. I used to be very overly conscious of food and my food intake, and very obsessed with exercise, and very obsessed with not making backward steps in my progress and thinking that anything bad that I ate was going to set me in that direction. I was in a really unhealthy and toxic mindset, and through the later months of the year, I would be adamant about doing additional HIIT workouts, doing additional cardio, and working out as much as I possibly could to make up for the calories that I was going to consume on like one day. And worst of all, because I was so stressed about being perfect, when I would overeat at Thanksgiving or other holidays, I would drastically overeat. I would overeat because I had this thing called the Last Supper syndrome, which is thinking, well, I got to get it all in right now because I can't have it tomorrow. I have to be perfect tomorrow. And then tomorrow came and I would justify having some leftovers and go through it for like 3 or 4 or 5 days of constantly overeating, feeling guilty, feeling horrible in my skin, terribly bloated, and not being able to exercise any sort of moderation, and just feeling like a slave to my cravings and the food that I had. My goal today with this holiday survival guide is really just to teach you the principles that are going to be very helpful for you to be able to navigate the holidays without stress when it comes to your food and your exercise. And honestly, just teaching you the lessons that I wish that I had when I was really going through this and struggling with this. So first, let's just talk about perspective, right? The holiday season as a whole is like a 2.5 month period, which is essentially like 75 days of the year. So if you have a couple of holiday meals like Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe 1 or 2 holiday parties, and a bunch of Halloween candy one day, that's like 5 days. You can count that on one hand versus all of the days that you could be making progress towards your goals and actually setting yourself forward. We have a lot of clients that make a ton of progress through the holidays because they are just consistent all the other days, and they enjoy their Thanksgiving freely. They enjoy their Christmas dinner and their holiday parties freely, and it doesn't set them back because they're so consistent otherwise. And then mindset principle number 2, you do not need to make up for any food that you eat, any bad things that you have. And in fact, subscribing to that mentality of thinking I have to burn this many calories, I have to do this much exercise, is actually going to make you more prone to overeating more, falling into the all or nothing mindset even more than if you had just given yourself permission in the first place, because that permission alleviates guilt and shame, which is the ultimate trigger for that screw it, I'm gonna eat everything and get it all in now response. So if this is making sense to you, here's a couple of tips that can make your holidays a little bit easier and approach it in a healthy and balanced way. So number 1, start your day with lots and lots of water. Stay hydrated. Your body will be able to process its hunger and fullness signals with more clarity, and you won't be mistaking thirst for hunger. Number 2, start your day with lean proteins, fruits and vegetables, and complex carbohydrates that are going to keep you fuller for longer. If you haven't already looked at our balanced meal framework and how you portion a balanced meal, definitely reach out and I can send you that. But you don't want to restrict any food groups or focus on eating as little as possible or just fasting until the event. That's going to set you up for overindulging even more than if you had just had the meal in the first place. Now, it's okay to go a little bit lighter or maybe have slightly smaller portions of the carbs or the fats and focus more on the lean proteins and the vegetables, but make sure your first couple meals of the day on the day of a holiday are still nourishing and still keeping you full and holding you over and not leading you to extreme hunger. And number 3, if possible, start your day with movement. Just try to get outside, get your body moving, or go to the gym and get a good workout in, not because it's going to make up for anything, but because it sets the tone for your day and it's going to make you feel good. Now, if you're cooking all day, totally understand. That is plenty of movement. You do not need to feel guilty and you do not need to wake up at 3 a.m. to go get a run or a workout in just because it's the day of. You can work out the day before and the day after and it will be totally fine. So those are the tips for approaching the day prior to that holiday event or meal. When it comes to the holiday meal itself, here are a couple tips that I've used and have really learned to make habit in my life that have made it so easy to just eat until I'm full on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, not feel guilty, and literally be able to just move on and not even be focused on food anymore. Now, this has been a long journey for me, I will say. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over multiple years of practicing this, and I'm not perfect. I still overeat a little bit, but it is so much better than what it was. So rule number 1, this is the most important thing that I will probably say this whole video: give yourself permission to overeat. Give yourself permission to eat whatever you want and just enjoy it. I promise you, it sounds super counterintuitive, but here's why. When you give yourself permission to overeat, so that way you don't have a red flag popping up in your head saying, oh my God, you failed, you overate, you're the worst, leading to more guilt, more shame, and then inevitably the screw it, I'll just start over tomorrow, I'll just have whatever I can now and get it all in while I'm being bad, and overindulging way more than you otherwise would have. When you give yourself permission to overeat, it actually kind of works as reverse psychology, and you're able to just stop when you're full because it's not a big deal in the first place. Number 2, practice mindful eating strategies. So chewing slowly, chewing your food thoroughly, practicing breathing between bites and not scarfing down your food. Now, your environment and the way that you were brought up as a kid probably plays a really big role into how quickly you eat. If you had siblings that ate all your food and stole your food, you probably were protective and scarfed down all your food as fast as you could. But you're an adult now, and that's probably not the case. So actively slow yourself down and work on really chewing, really tasting. And what you'll find is you probably have a totally different experience with the meal in the first place, and your hunger signals and fullness signals are able to catch up a little bit faster to your brain, so you don't have to feel like, oh crap, I overate like crazy. Number 3, seconds are okay, but we're gonna use a rule called the hell yeah foods, or PG version, heck yeah foods. The foods that on that holiday you look forward to, you love, you have them once a year, and they are the ones that get you so excited for the holiday. For me, that is corn pudding and the turkey leg. Heck yeah foods are so important to honor, to have as much as you want, and give yourself that permission. Now, if it's not a heck yeah food, don't put it on your plate, or don't eat more of it than you actually enjoy or want to. And don't go back for seconds just because it's there. This little mental prioritization exercise makes a huge difference and really bolsters your enjoyment of the holiday as a whole. Finally, step 4, I really like this one, and I've kind of changed the way that I tell people to work on this now versus before, but I would encourage setting actual goals with yourself. If you find yourself being very food focused through the holidays and not being able to really focus on anything other than what's on your plate, what's on other people's plates, what's still out, what could you eat more of, and whether or not you should, if that's constantly going through your head, try to set a goal of how can you actively start or participate in a certain number of conversations. What this is going to do is it's going to actually get you in a goal-oriented mindset, because if you're anything like me, you like setting and hitting goals. And it's going to help you just keep a productive focus on something that is actually going to help you enjoy the holiday more, right? Engaging with friends and family members. So maybe my goal is I'll start or be an active part of 3 conversations, and it's not a food goal. It's not a try to get your mind off food type of goal. It's actively participating, and it will inevitably, as kind of a side effect, take your focus away from the food for a little bit so that you can just be present, be with others. Because a lot of times during the holidays, people say, be present with friends and family. And you're like, cool, I have no idea how. And that is just one strategy that you can use to do that. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to think about is if you are in any sort of goal-specific phase. So for myself, I am in a goal-specific phase. I am actively tracking my macros in a fat loss phase, in a calorie deficit, doing cardio. So how does this get affected, right? So my advice to you, if you were my client, I would tell you, put away the food scale. Do not try to track grandma's mac and cheese. Like, it is not worth your time or your energy or the stress of seeing what those numbers actually look like. And it's probably going to induce more guilt and more shame when you actually see those numbers. That will cause you maybe a trigger to overeat and call yourself a failure and self-sabotage, rather than if you had just enjoyed the dang thing in the first place, put the numbers to the side for the day, and had the portion that you felt good about anyways with your mindful eating skills. So I'm not going to be tracking Thanksgiving, but what I am going to be doing is maybe having a really high protein, lean breakfast, having a lunch if there's enough time before that meal, and getting a solid workout in, and making sure that I'm just on point the rest of the week, the days before, the days after, and the days after, if I incorporate leftovers, incorporating it into my allotted calories and nutrition. And lastly, one tip that's really going to help is to pay mind throughout the day to your hunger and fullness signals, and don't let yourself get to the ravenous, I'm going to eat my arm off, I'm dizzy because I'm so hungry level. This is where I said, like, don't fast, actually have a meal. It's so important to be mindful of how hungry and full you are throughout the day. And all of these tips kind of help contribute to that. But the reason why is because we want to avoid that super ravenous, crazy hungry state, because that is going to just drive us to overeat and eat way too quickly. And then we're going to feel very full with lots of regret after that. Those are my tips for the holidays. Honestly, very, very simple, but unconventional, I guess, compared to traditional wisdom of like restricting and not eating anything that you actually enjoy. But our clients at PCC use these strategies and they lose weight through the holidays. So this one day, just a reminder, is not going to ruin your progress. It's not going to ruin all of the work that you've been putting in. Just enjoy the day and give yourself the permission to do that, because it will work better for you in the long run. And I promise you, if you've never done this before and you've always been super food focused during the holidays, you are going to really appreciate and love using these tips this year. So happy holidays. I hope that these were helpful. Let me know in the comments if one of these resonated with you more than the others. And after the holidays finish, I want you to comment below and let me know how this went. I want to hear how it went from you. And I would love to hear your feedback on these tips, this advice, so that I can know how to best serve you with my content in the future. That's it. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you enjoyed this episode of Self Assured, let me know, and we will see you back in 2 weeks.